Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Planning Advisory Committee meeting for June. Appreciate your attendance. Without further ado, we'll get right into the issues of the evening. So I would ask, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof regarding any of the items? Seeing none, thank you. Could I have approval of the agenda as presented? Ms. Simmons, Councillor Quinte. Any further questions, comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Could I now have a motion to approve the minutes of May the 15th, and I would entertain any questions, comments. Councillor McHugh, Councillor Card, any comments or questions regarding those minutes?
Just one.
Okay. As
I mentioned at the council meeting last night, in the minutes it talks about Councillor Dave McHugh asking about the grade of the road on what road is that on now? Factory Road, I believe. Yeah. And I think it was me that asked the question. Mr. McHugh may have asked a question about it as well, but I'm pretty sure I did as well. Anyways, just make a note. Thanks.
Okay, so duly noted. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Public meetings are conducted as prescribed by Section 3413 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended for 2 zoning bylaw amendment applications affecting land in the Murray Ward and 1 official plan amendment application affecting lands in all wards. The meeting will be conducted in the following manner for each application. First, I will identify each application being considered, and then I will ask planning staff to outline on each application being considered. Then ask if there are any members of the public who have been registered in advance to attend and participate in the meeting, or have any questions or comments regarding each application. If there are no public comments or questions, I will ask the committee if they have any questions or comments. Once all committee questions have been addressed, the committee will consider and vote on each application. If you wish to provide comments, please state your name and address for the record prior to addressing the committee. This committee has been delegated the responsibility to conduct public meetings as prescribed under the Planning Act. A full report of the meeting's proceedings will be submitted to City Council on Wednesday, July the 16th, 2025. Council will make the decision on each stated application. Anyone other than the applicant who wishes to receive further notice of Council's decision on each application must submit a written request for the notice of Council's decision to the Director of Planning and Development Services. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services please advise the committee on how notice of these meetings were given. Brian, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notice of the applications being considered this evening for zoning bylaw amendments were given in keeping with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, by first-class mail on May 30th, 2025, and posting of signs on the subject properties on the same date. Notice of the application being considered this evening for an official plan amendment was given in keeping with the provisions of the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended by newspaper advertisement on May 29th, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. All right, we'll now proceed with the first public meeting of the evening, which is 7.1, Staff Report 25-046PD, a zoning bylaw amendment application. The owner is North Shore RV Park Limited. The location is 1675 County Road 64. File number is D09/M09/25. Madison, would you like to speak to this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This rezoning application is condition of consent application B39-23M, in which a new 3.2 hectare lot was conditionally approved. The purpose of this zoning amendment is threefold. 1, to rezone the conditionally approved severed lot from the recreation commercial zone to the rural residential zone to permit the development of a single detached dwelling and an additional residential unit on the property. 2, to rezone the conditionally approved retained lot to the Recreation Commercial Exception 3 zone to permit a reduction in the required lot frontage to 20 meters. The Recreation Commercial Exception 3 zone would include a special provision to recognize the existing development on the property that does not meet the required yard setbacks and are located within the 1 to 100 year flooding hazard. No additional development would be permitted within the flooding hazard. And finally, 3, to rezone a 30-meter buffer measured from the boundary of the Wellers Bay Complex provincially significant wetland and associated watercourse to the Environmental Protection Zone. No development would be permitted in the Environmental Protection Zone. Rezoning the severed lands to the rural residential zone would allow the property to be developed for residential purposes, which is consistent with the surrounding land uses on County Road 64 and Carter Road. As previously stated, rezoning the retained lands to the Recreation Commercial Exception 3 zone would permit a reduction in lot frontage. While a reduction in the required lot frontage from 100 meters to 20 meters may seem substantial, it is believed it would not affect the functionality of the retained lands, as access is granted via a private right-of-way known as Shoreline Road. No additional development would be permitted on the private right-of-way. Finally, rezoning the 30-meter buffer from the boundary of Wellers Bay Complex provincially significant wetland and associated watercourse to the environmental protection zone would protect the natural features on the site from negative impacts associated with development. An environmental impact study conducted by D.M. Wills in December 2022 was submitted in support of the corresponding consent application. Applying the environmental protection zone to this portion of the property would aid in implementing the mitigation measures contained in the EIS. Since this application was circulated to the public, one neighboring property owner inquired about where the entrance to the proposed severed lot would be located, specifically whether the entrance would come off of County Road 64 or Shoreline Road. While an entrance permit has not yet been issued, staff confirmed the entrance would come off of County Road 64, as it is a municipally owned and maintained road, whereas Shoreline Road is private. Overall, this application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, the City of Quinte West official plan, and represents good planning. This application is therefore recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much, Madison. Do we have anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone who wishes to speak in opposition or have general questions? Anyone with general questions? Okay, thank you. Committee, I would now ask you to consider the application and recommendation as to approve, and I would entertain a motion or any questions or comments. Mr. Edson, move. Councillor McHugh, seconds. Any further questions or comments? Ms. Simmons?
Just the question I had, the additional residential unit, that's just in keeping with the general policy, planning policy, that you can put an additional unit?
I believe so, but I'll let staff address that if you'd like.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it would be rezoned to the rural residential zone, which does permit the accessory residential unit.
Okay, and no further questions? All in favor of the recommendation? Carried, thank you. We now move to staff report 7.2, 25-047 PD, a zoning bylaw amendment application. The owner is Gertrude Molker and the estate of Peter Molker. Location is 176 Teal Road. The file number is D09/M07/25. Ashley, would you like to address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This rezoning is a condition of consent application B11/25M, which was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on March 13th, 2025. Under the consent application, the Committee of Adjustment approves the severance of a 0.14 hectare parcel of land for lot addition purposes to be added to 176 Teal Road. The purpose of the application is to rezone the conditionally approved severed lot from the rural zone to the rural residential zone to harmonize the zoning of the conditionally approved lot addition lands with the benefiting lot. The conditionally approved retained lot that is zoned rural and provincially significant wetland would remain unchanged. The comments from the building department state no concerns. No residents to date have voiced concerns about the application, and there have been no other comments from staff or external agencies. This application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the city's official plan, and maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. This application is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Anyone in opposition or have general questions regarding this application? Seeing none, I'd ask the committee to consider the recommendation to approve and entertain a motion or any further questions.
Sure, I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Quinte, second by Councillor McHugh. Any further questions from the committee regarding it? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, we now move to 7.3, Staff Report 25-048 PD's Housekeeping Official Plan Amendment, Additional Residential Units. The owner is the City of Quinte West. Location is all wards. File numbers D09/Q12/25. Davina, I give you the floor to explain this as you have in the past. I'm sure it's going to be updated.
Through you, Mr. Chair, City Council approved bylaw 23-032 on February 22nd, 2023, a new official plan for the City of Quinte West. It is appropriate to periodically bring forward amendments that keep the official plan current by addressing new or changing provincial legislation and regulations, updates to provincial policy, or housekeeping matters. The proposed amendments in this report address additional residential units to increase the number of allowance within urban residential properties with a single detached, semi-detached, duplex, or townhouse dwelling on full municipal services from 2 to 3, in addition to the principal dwelling unit, resulting in a total of 4 residential units. This is followed by a zoning bylaw amendment proposed in the last committee meeting on May 15th. These changes come after the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund and other federal funding programs such as the Housing Accelerator Fund, which have required municipalities with populations over 30,000 to implement zoning that permits 4 residential units as of right, to be eligible for funding, which is intended to support higher density housing and increasing supply within existing urban areas. No comments have been received.
Thank you very much. Do we have any in attendance who wishes to have any questions regarding this application? Any opposition? Don't see anything, which is good news, I guess. Other than that, I would entertain the committee to consider recommendation, which is to receive the report and then carry on there. Councillor Card moves. Ms. Simmons seconds. Any further questions or comments in regards to this? Councillor Card.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the Director of Planning, I was just going to ask very, very quickly, because I know some folks may see this, and 4 dwelling units on the lots, and wondering about impacts from that. And I know the report mentions, of course, that we need this to apply for the CHIF funding and other funding streams, but I just wanted to ask the Director of Planning if it's his opinion that this policy, while helpful, is probably more relevant to the urban centers, if that's a fair statement, and expectation that relatively few properties in Quinte West will ever max this out, although they have the potential to. Is that kind of a fair characterization?
Director Jardine.
Just through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, I think that's a good way to characterise it. I think committee and council and the public have seen over the last couple of years this push towards higher densities within urban areas, making better use of serviced municipal or serviced land for residential purposes. Additional dwelling units has been one tool that the province has really been pushing, all municipalities. This is an incremental change. We already have policy and zoning in place that allows in an urban area for 2 additional units. This is 1 on top of that. Now, in a lot of circumstances, that sounds like a significant change. Well, it is a significant change from particularly a property that has traditionally had a single family home. The reality is that there will be very few properties that will max out. It's basically an upper allowance. It's obviously not something that we're going to mandate or build as of right across the board. It'll be an opportunity for properties that are large enough and have the opportunity to put an apartment perhaps in the basement or in an attic space or in an accessory building on the side. But I think you're right in saying that while it's an opportunity, there'll be a relatively small number of properties that will take full advantage of that. Now, I would say that the additional residential units has been one, it's been talked a lot about, but it doesn't really show up very much on reports related to building permit stats, but it has actually been a very successful tool across the province in achieving additional units, particularly for extended families type situations, where people can have a rental space within their home that doesn't include or require new infrastructure and constantly developing outwards. It's been very, very successful. In this municipality alone, when we brought these policies in place, we saw the average number of additional residential units go from maybe 4 or 5 a year up to 25, 30 a year. So in the context of how many homes we build in a year, that's a significant change. So it's been a very successful tool. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Your comments regarding the applications and staff reports have been recorded and will be forwarded to the members of council. Together with the minutes of this meeting, council will make a decision to approve or refuse each stated application at the regularly scheduled council meeting of Wednesday, July the 16th, 2025. We now move down to item 8, which is public input, and we have a couple of decision items coming up here, and if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address one or both of those items, I would entertain your questions or comments now, and I know we have some distinguished guests here from the Legion, so if you have a spokesperson and you'd like to come, I would say this would be the appropriate time, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Pam De Silva, and I'm here as a representative from our Branch 110 Legion. We are looking for variance on a electronic LED sign to be placed on the side of our building, which would face Quinte Street. It will enable us to reach out to more of the public, more of our veterans in the area, that they will see information that is going to be going on at the Legion. Not all our senior members know how to work Facebook or get on the computer, so they do come downtown periodically so they can see messages that we have going on. If we have any special guests that may come in and speak on their behalf on events going on for seniors, what they can do to help seniors. We're looking for an approval. We did receive a grant, so it has absorbed some of the cost. We have dipped into our funds for the building permit and the variance, which, you know, comes out of our funds, which is for our veterans. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Thank you.
Okay, well, we appreciate your attendance. Thank you. We do have a staff report here, and it will be addressed coming up. And is there anyone else in attendance who would like to come forward under public input? You can ask a question or concerns about any other topic or item that's been on the agenda or upcoming. Okay, seeing none. All right, we'll move right along. Item 9, presentations we have done, and delegations done. So we move right into item 11, decision items, and 11.1, staff report 25-049 PD, the sign variance of 2025-000137, the owner's Royal Canadian Legion Branch 118. I always thought it was 110, but misprint then here. Branch 110, yeah, and the address is 19 Quinte Street. William, you're Deputy Chief of Building Official. I guess you'd like to maybe give us an outline on this application from staff's point of view, and then I'll ask for some input from the sidelines here.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to start by saying thank you for coming here, and thank you for the service that you've given the country. In regards to the report itself, on March 31st, an application was submitted to the Building Department for an electronic message display sign for the Royal Canadian Legion here in Trenton. The sign is of the fascia type. The proposed sign would be about 6 1/4 feet tall and about 9 1/2 feet wide, and would be used for displaying of event information for the Legion. The sign is proposed to be attached to the building on the north end of the building facing west, basically above the the covered area at the front of the building. This proposed sign would contravene the sign bylaw in so much as it does not meet the setbacks to a residential zone. The setback to the residential zone is approximately 60 meters when measuring from property lines, but the distance from the sign face to the residential building at 5 Cresswell Drive is approximately 90 meters, and the sign to the residential buildings above the residences above the buildings on Fraser Park Drive is about 100 and a little bit more than 100 meters. The sign bylaw requires this setback to be 150 meters to residential zones. The proposed sign bylaw is also approximately, the proposed sign is also approximately 380 meters from the electronic sign at 71 Murphy Street, which is a Quinte Animal Hospital. The sign bylaw requires 2 kilometers setback from another electronic sign. Because of these two setbacks, because both of these setbacks are less than the minimum required, staff cannot recommend approving of the application. Planning staff has made a comment and a note saying, should this variance be approved, then there should be some stipulations in that approval, in that if complaints come in that can't be mitigated through the reduction of brightness, then there would be a condition that the sign be turned off, say, suggesting from 11 p.m. to maybe 7 a.m. or something like that.
Okay, thank you, William. Do we have anyone else who wishes to address this before I turn it over to the committee here? Okay.
Pam again. Yes, I've had this discussion, and there would be no problem. It will be hooked to the computer where we'll have the information, and we can set it on that at 11 o'clock at night or even 10 o'clock at night. It can go off, and it wouldn't go back on until the next day.
Okay.
You're not going to have people driving at midnight wanting to look at an electronic sign anyway, so that's not a problem of having it turned
Okay.
off.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, committee, I would ask that you entertain, of course, the recommendation is not to approve, but I would entertain any discussion or what your feelings are on it. Ms. Simmons, and I'll move down the line here.
You know, I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm just concerned about the brightness, making another variance and setting a precedent. If we allow this, then how can we not allow other signs? I mean, maybe it's a great idea, but I do think that if we keep on having variances to our bylaws, then maybe we better reassess our bylaws first.
Okay, duly noted. Anyone else? Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in favor of it if they turn the sign off. The other sign that's farther away, you can't even see it with the size of the buildings. And the way this sign's positioned, I don't really think it affects many residentials. As long as they agree to turn the sign off, and if there's a problem with brightness, if someone complains, if they agree to turn it down, I'd like to make the recommendation to approve it on those two things.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Quincy, and then I'll move down the line.
I'm going to second Councillor O'Neill's proposal to allow the sign with the restrictions that he has indicated. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McHugh.
I too am in favor of this sign. I've been overlooked at the site. We have some other electronic signs. I remember Trenton High School has to comply with certain rules and regulations of what we do. Have other ones in the area, and it's nice that the folks involved with it are willing to work with the city to make sure that it works. So I have no problem with it. I will be voting in support of it.
Okay, Councillor Card.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Similar to the other comments, I will also support with the stipulations. I think that it's a fair point that was made about granting of the variances. I think that personally, in cases such as this, I think about the difference between granting the variance for what I would consider a community benefit sign by a community beneficial organization versus a for-profit business. I think that if there are going to be variances and meeting not quite the setbacks, but approaching meeting the setbacks, I think variances could be granted in these cases where I think that the bylaw, certainly for the for-profit businesses, I think it makes sense to adhere fairly strictly.
Thank you. Mr. Edison?
I also agree with Councillor O'Neill. I'm going to support the motion. The question through you to Brian, I thought the hours that we had was 9 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning. I think that was,
Through the chair, there's no specific hours. I think there may have been other variances where different hours have been applied, but that would really be at the discretion of the committee.
Yeah.
We would provide that in the stipulation if the committee's comfortable with 11 p.m. That would be reasonable. I think the thing about the variance application, and Ms. Simmons' point is very well made, that as the committee well knows by now, our sign bylaw in relation to electronic signs, as the Legion are now well aware, is very restrictive. And that was Council's desire, to try and provide some control there. And what the variance application allows us to do is assess that particular situation, because no two situations are the same. And while the setbacks are not met, I think the uniqueness of this one is it's not really in a core residential area. While there are residences within fairly close proximity, there's only a few, right? It's not like there's a major subdivision or something like that. So again, the point is, I think 11 p.m. would probably be more realistic in this setting, because it is more in a commercial area as opposed to more of a residential area. So again, I think that would be the assessment that we could make in this particular location.
okay, thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a motion on the floor that's moved and seconded that we approve the sign subject to conditions, and I certainly will support it. I'll be the tie vote, I guess, or tiebreaker, but I will support it. And I know, as Brian said, and I think Councillor McHugh, we've had some other areas we've had to adjust certain regulations to make it conform, and I don't think we've had any complaints from them since. But I think probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night instead of earlier, because I do know they have evening functions, and they might want to advertise them or say they're business or they're open or whatever. I would say not to be too early restrictive, but you certainly don't think you need it 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, that's for sure. So whatever time I think would be, I guess, comfortable with their operation, I don't have a problem with. If there's suggestions, or I know the motion was, you said around 11 or in that neighborhood, so, but I would just throw that out there to write the recommendation. I'm open to numbers, I'll put it that way.
To Mr. Chair, if I think the message from the applicants here is the 11 o'clock would be a reasonable time, so I think we just go with that. Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, it's been regularly moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried, thank you. I thought maybe, Ms. Simmons, you were going to oppose.
No, I just had a concern about the precedence. I have no opposition to the sign where it
Okay.
is.
No, that's fine, thank you. All right, we'll now move on to item 11.2, staff report, 25050 PD, a sign variance, and it's 250000106. The owner's 100599790 Canada Inc. The address is 628 Old Highway 2. William, would you like to address this application, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. On March 13th, an application was submitted to the building department for a general advertising pylon sign. I apologize, in the report it references an electronic sign. This is not an electronic sign, and references to that in the report are mistaken. It is proposed to be an approximately 27 feet tall sign face by 8 feet wide, with the total height being 30 feet. The proposed location is at 628 Old Highway 2. This property was recently renovated to create a 14-unit residential development. It was previously a hotel and is considered a legal non-conforming residential use. The sign will be located on the sign will be located just west of the eastern driveway, if that makes sense. The proposed use of this sign will be primarily for advertising businesses and services not on the property. This sign would contravene the sign bylaw, as a general advertising sign is to be no closer than 100 meters from a residential use. As such, the staff does not recommend approving this sign variance application.
Okay, thank you. Sir, would you like to address this application? I presume you're representing the applicants.
Yes, I'm the owner of the property. Mr. Chair, thank you for hearing the file tonight.
Could you state your name and address for the record, just for our secretary, please?
Yes, my name is Ryan Carr. Address is 6-470 King Street West, Oshawa, Ontario, L1J2K9 Suite 245.
Okay, go ahead, sir, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee for hearing the file tonight. As was introduced, I'm here for a minor variance related to a sign permit at 628 Old Highway 2, as we can see up there on the screen. For the purposes of the hearing tonight, I understand that the committee is recommending not approving the application, so I think I'd like to start here so I can further understand the application that's been put forth, as well as the decisions that the committee is looking to make. Could you please further explain the challenges with this application?
William?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. The sign bylaw is written in such a way as a general advertising sign is to be set back from residential uses and by 100 meters. So that's really the issue here, is that this property is primarily a residential use. It is not zoned as such, but is recognized as a legal non-conforming residential use, and as such, the general advertising sign would obviously then not be the 100-meter setback to the residential use.
Okay, do you have further questions or comments, sir, please?
Yeah, through you, Chair. So the question related to that. So is it the opinion of the committee that these challenges are not minor in measurement or zoning, or not minor in impact?
Would you like to address that, or Brian, in planning? I don't know which one would want to take that one on.
I think I'm not sure I quite understand the question. I would say if I was to pick one of the two, it would be impact. The intent, obviously, for general advertising signs, they advertise a commercial use. It's on a property that has obviously had a kind of a mixed evolving history, but it's a residential use with signage advertising commercial properties, particularly commercial properties that are on separate, somewhere else, and I expect are going to change over time. So it's inconsistent with a residential property. You wouldn't expect to see that on any other form of residential property. So that's the conflict there.
Understood.
I think you're trying to do something that normally somebody wouldn't do on a residential lot, and it may be a product of the fact of well, it's a residential use, it's on a major highway, so I'm gathering that's probably what's generating the interest for some form of advertising, just because of its location, but it's not really consistent with a residential land use.
Understood. So through you, Chair, as per the Schedule A of the sign bylaw, 628 Old Highway 2 is a prescribed arterial road with, as mentioned in the comments, mixed zoning throughout. We've got residential, we have commercial, we have light industrial manufacturing, things of this nature. From a curiosity standpoint, I've done some research here. Unfortunately, I can't get it up on the screen, but if for anybody who can see this, this is the current zone and this is the current aerial view of the property. And if you measure using the GIS tool, well, you can see it up there on the screen, adjacent uses are residential. That is 100% correct. However, the distance from the closest dwelling or residence is 55 meters, followed by 70 meters across the street and 150 meters to the opposite side. We might be adjacent to residential zones, but we aren't necessarily that far off from other residential dwellings where the sign may be located. So my question through you, Chair, is have staff considered the fact that although we are adjacent to residential uses, the distance between the actual dwellings themselves, being that we're not an electronic sign, we're talking about words and pictures on post, how may this affect them, and has that be considered?
I guess my comments when I looked at the report here, this is quite a large sign, and I was trying to get around the size of it. It's kind of like a highway billboard in a sense, or a mini one, I guess, but it's a lot bigger than if you're advertising like a realtor would have 4x4 or 4x6. I think I somewhat understand what Mr. Sycamore was talking about. And I would presume it's to advertise what you're doing with the property or what you have available or whatever. I guess my concern, I don't know what my committee is, what their thoughts are. I'll turn it over to them for questions too. But I just find it's quite excessively large. for to have a sign in that area, but that's just my personal opinion, just of looking at this and trying to envision it in that site, especially with the close proximity of the lots and what have you there. Yeah.
Understood.
But I'm just one vote here. I'm usually the tie vote if it comes down to that, but I don't know, staff, do you have anything else more you'd like to discuss on this? I mean, William, what is your, and building department's end of it, do you find it's a little excessively large compared to other advertising signs? I'll put it that way.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Ultimately, the sign bylaw is written in such a way that residential uses can have an advertising sign. Most properties can have advertising signs if they're advertising something on their own property, or a service or a product supplied on their own property. And general advertising signs are limited in their use and their scope for the purpose of eliminating clutter and eyesore in generalized areas. Being consistent with the intent of the bylaw and the restriction of general advertising signs, as opposed to the general approval of advertising signs for goods and services offered on the property, I don't feel like this is consistent with the proposed use of the sign on the property.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to address, sir?
Yeah, through you, Chair. So to respond to that comment, could staff please comment on whether or not if somebody resided at the property that had a sign out front versus didn't reside at the property that had a sign out front, what would the difference be in terms of words and pictures on a post, regardless of who is living within the property lines?
Wants to answer that, I'll let you.
Brian? Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's not who resides isn't really the issue there. So in relation to what Mr. Sigma said, so if you have a residential property, okay, you could theoretically have a sign advertising something, but that would relate to the use on the property. And in a residential use, that would normally be very limited in scope, right? It would be what we usually refer to as a home occupation. It'd be somebody cutting hair or maybe doing some detailing in their garage, and the limitations on the sign are very strict. There's a very small sign that's permitted. Other than that, it would be normal to, the sign that's being proposed here is something that you would normally see, for instance, in a strip mall that's got 5 or 6 uses in different units, and you've got this tall thing saying, you've got Jimmy's Pizza and all the rest of it, right? That's not what's happening on this property. This is advertising things. This is an opportunity you're looking for to monetize some signage on your property, but it's a residential use. You're not advertising what's happening in the building on the property. You're advertising things elsewhere. So there's an inconsistency there with what the sign bylaw is, because at the end of the day, while the sign bylaw allows an opportunity definitely for businesses to advertise and to provide notification of where they are for travelling public, etc., it's there for a reason. It's meant to limit that over-cluttering of signage that doesn't relate to what's actually in that location. So that's part of the concern of your application.
Yeah, understood. Through you, Chair. So it sounds to me like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's the size of the sign that's the issue, and the fact that it was previously stated as electronic, which it is not electronic. Are we boiling down to the fact that we're adjacent to residential uses, or the sign is too big, or where's the major concern here?
Okay. Councilor McHugh, would you like to ask a question?
If I remember correctly, it's called third-party advertising. You're advertising on a sign on that property. What you're advertising has nothing to do with the property itself. You're advertising other businesses elsewhere. And if I remember correctly, about 2 years ago, we turned down a sign near the beer store. It had to be electronic, but the very same thing, we turned it down because they were going to use it to advertise businesses that were not happening on that property, third-party advertising.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Do you have anything more, William or Brian? No? Okay. Any committee members? Councilor Quinte.
So I drive past this property on a regular basis, and there's a Canada Post mail service on the same side of your lot where you're proposing to put this sign. Have you reached out to Canada Post to see if they have any concerns?
Through you, Chair, one of the things that I did want to bring up is the staff reports that I received from the building department this morning might be different than what you guys have in front of you today. So to answer your question directly, I have not reached out to Canada Post because my sign location is not adjacent to that mailbox.
Well, from your sketch, that kind of what it looks like that I have.
Would we be able to show the site plan on the screen?
Right there. Isn't that part that's green there that says 7.75 meters?
That's
Is that
right.
where you're planning on putting the sign?
That's 20 feet away from the mailbox.
I was just asking if you had reached out to Canada Post, because I'm gathering many people stop here to pick up their mail.
Okay.
I don't know how many people that post services.
There's 14 units on the property, through each other. There's 14 units on the property. It is legal non-conforming. To the best of my knowledge, it's only people on the property that use the mailbox. I don't have a key to the mailbox myself, so I'm only presuming. But I haven't seen outsiders stop at the property to use this postal service.
And then with the hydro lines that go across the front of your property, is there any, did you reach out to the hydro company to see if they had any concerns with the height of your sign?
I did. So through you, Chair, I did a pre-consultation with the building department before I submitted the minor variance application. I spoke with Adam, I think his last name is Jabrowski, Adam Jabrowski within building, and I said, this is what I'm proposing to do. He said, you will have a setback requirement from the hydro lines depending on the voltage. So I reached out to hydro, I confirmed the voltage. From there, that determined a 3-meter setback, which is exactly where I placed the sign.
Right. Yeah, because there are some signs like directly across the road, but they're much smaller and they pertain to the businesses, like the auto dealership. There's an auto dealership. Mm-hmm. And then another is an entrance to the mobile home park. Mm-hmm. These signs are a lot smaller. But they are fixed in a similar fashion where they are like wooden posts into the ground and basically just, I think one's a steel post with whether it's a plastic board or some sort of board where the auto dealer can change numbers to advertise, a certain vehicle at a certain price or what have you. Mm-hmm. So I am having an issue with the size of the sign and where it's located in relation to the traffic, because that is a lot of traffic on that road. And I also as well have concerns with the fact that the sign is advertising other businesses that are located at other parts of the community. So I'm on the how you say, the fence, or maybe I'm on the top of the sign, teetering one way or the other. I just find that the sign is quite large and going to seem out of place.
Understood. Through your Chair.
My opinion.
Is there a member of the building department present tonight? Yeah. Within the Ontario Building Code, is there a regulation for a pre-prescribed sign height within OBC regs?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Ontario Building Code doesn't regulate this type of a sign, no.
What type of sign would it regulate, through you, Chair?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Building Code dictates when engineering is required for signs that are attached to buildings on fascia, that sort of things of certain size.
Okay. Through you, Chair, so there would be no comparable metric within the OBC that we could say, okay, 30 feet might be too tall, what if we went smaller? Or what if we went within the pre-prescribed regulations of that document?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, that is correct. There's nothing in the building code that we would use to prescribe the size of the sign. The sign variance is strictly through the sign bylaw.
Understood. Through you, Mr. Chair, could staff please explain where the signage states a measured height of 27 feet?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the information on the sign, Swapnil, if you can maybe go back one or possibly two screens, that one there. So that sign there says 30 feet along the side, which is the second number I referred to. The 27 feet is an approximation based on measurements. The 3 feet comes from, if you look at the two footings there, they are 3 feet, and taking that 3 foot measurement on the paper and comparing it to that bottom channel there is about 3 feet. So the expectation then is that from that channel up is the possibility. Now, if that's incorrect, it would still be 30 feet tall, but to the bottom sign that's there is probably, and that was a little bit harder to ascertain, but 9 or 10 feet from the ground level to the bottom of that sign there. Does that jive with what you understood from my measurements?
Through you, Chair, it does not. It does not. It says 30 feet. Could staff please explain where the site plan states a setback to residential lots of 3 meters?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the setback is actually to this property. So that's the first thing, and all adjacent properties are also. So it's to zoning, properties zoned as, so not necessarily the setback from the sign itself to another building. It is to properties zoned residential. So essentially, again, this sign is on a property that is adjacent to or congruent with other residential properties.
Just a question also, would it not have to conform, whether it's this sign or another, that it doesn't block any sight lines of ingress or egress of the property also? I believe in the past we've had to look at that too when there was a positioning of signs, and I don't know exactly where this one is to really get that content, but I would presume Public Works would want to look into that along with planning and everything, make sure it's got safe access so it doesn't have a blind spot too.
That's correct. I don't have that information in front of me at the moment, Mr. Chair, but yes, typically we would be considering the site for the access and egress.
Okay.
Through you, Chair. It's my understanding that the legal nonconforming use related to the property does not alter the zoning. The zoning stands, but the legal nonconforming use may continue if it is continued operationally in perpetuity. So that being said, the zoning, as I would understand it, the setback for this sign would be 0 because it's located on the property. The 3 meters that's shown is to the hydro lines, and the actual side yard setback is 7.75.
Any comment from planning in that regard?
I think we're getting into semantics. I don't think it impacts the application or the recommendation at all.
Oh, just getting clarification, I guess, one way or the other. I don't know whether that answers your question or not, to suit your satisfaction, but anyway, is there anything further? I know I have some committee members here that would like to ask some questions, so if there's anything further, I'll let you bring it forward now.
I'll answer questions, absolutely.
Okay. Councillor Quinte, and
Yeah,
I'll move down the line if anybody else has a question or comment.
I just wanted to point out that there are other signs in this neighborhood. The Colangelos, they have a fixed sign advertising strictly their business, and then Trenton Window and Glass has got a sign. But these properties are directly like across the street from where this proposal is, and on the south side of Old Highway 2. I don't believe there's any other signs within, a few hundred meters of where he's proposing to put his sign on this particular parcel of land. I'm just, like I say, still sitting on with the size of it, or the height of it, I guess, is my issue.
Sure. Through you, Chair, could members of the committee speak to any recent complaints in the area of any other signs that Councillor Kuntz has mentioned?
I'm not aware of any, but Ms. Simmons, would you like to address this, please?
I think the size of the sign is an issue, but the real issue is the fact that it's non-conforming. and it's advertising things that are not on the property. And that is the main concern as for me. I will not be supporting this application because of that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Through you, Chair. I've actually received phone calls from members of the community, other local businesses who say, we need places to advertise Tina's Accounting, Joe's Restaurant, John's Hardware. We need places that get high visibility. The fact that 628 Old Highway 2 happens to be on a prescribed arterial, like that's the point, right? You want people to see it. You want people to know that these places are open. You can advertise digitally. You can advertise on social media. You can advertise in the physical presence. You can advertise in newspapers. There's lots of options to do this. Historically, as people are driving by, they see these things and they think about it. I think it's Councillor Kuhn says he drives past often, right? He would see this sign. I'm trying to go about it the right way. I'm trying to go about it by bringing it forth and saying to council and the committee, hey, we have an opportunity here to promote people in this community. My mailing address may be Oshawa, but I do reside in the community. So I'm very aware of the comings and goings of what takes place here. I've owned this property for since 2018 now. The property prior to was, permission to speak freely here. The property prior to was in pretty tough straits. It was falling over. It was dilapidated. A number of the units saw a prolonged vacancy. But on the flip side, there is one tenant there that's lived there over 30 years, 30. There's another tenant that had lived there over 20. I took the property from what was largely uninhabitable to, through a building permit process, continued the legal nonconforming use, and now it actually looks good. We're supporting 14 families that reside there. With the sign, I could also support a number of people who could advertise on something. Maybe it's too tall. We could adjust the height if that's a big concern. But the point is to have the opportunity and the outlet for people to come and advertise on somewhere that gets the eyeballs is the point.
One question I'll have before I open up to some other committee members. If this sign was reduced, we'll say, is there any, well, I'll put it this way, is there any way a sign there would qualify, I'll put it that way, to be in this spot, or is it because of the zoning and the residential? I just want to know if it really is disqualified, whether it's big, small, or whatever. I just want a clarification on that from staff, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. The issue that the building department has with the variance application is not the size of the sign. It is the use of the sign as a general advertising sign in residential areas.
Councillor, okay, go ahead, and then Councillor Card has a question.
Have we received any neighboring complaints from any adjacent landowners?
I'm not aware of any. I don't know whether staff has. I can't say. You'd be the first
Yeah,
people I follow.
Mr. Chair, obviously the sign's not there, so there's nothing at this point to complain about. Other complaints on other signs, I'm not sure of the relevance there.
Sorry, to clarify, Mr. Chair, have we received any complaints about this application? No. From neighboring landowners?
Not that I've seen, and I know staff, they usually get to look at any correspondence before we get it, so I'm quite sure if it was circulated or whatever, or if it was aware, I'm not sure.
No, these applications are not applications under the Planning Act. That's why they're decision items, so they're not circulated for public comment.
Complaints maybe would come after if we did get any, but I can tell you a number of years ago why we got into the sign bylaw business is because the portable signs, we had sign wars. You'd have one right in front of the other trying to outdo the next applicant, and so we had to reduce that and also, tidy up and neaten up a few loose ends, I'll say, to make it more acceptable. And I know it probably is not people like yourself that makes you happy that there's a restriction in a sense in place, but I can say in the past, and I know some of my colleagues that sat here, since we introduced a sign bylaw, that's what we kind of got into to make sure things looked in a conformative manner that was respectful and wasn't causing any problems with neighbors or whatever in as far as sight lines and I guess in a sense sign pollution too, if you want to go that route. But anyway, that's just some of the comments. Councillor Card.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to just speak that a little bit. I am sympathetic with the applicant as a former small business owner. I think we kind of danced around this a little bit, but kind of the crux of this is that your issue is with the sign bylaw, and I apologize for not knowing a ton of the specifics. I wasn't on council at the time I was drafted, but this is a community that the council of the day chose to create a restrictive sign bylaw. And so I think that your issues in terms of the non-conforming nature of this really goes to a larger conversation about does excessive signage and advertising adjacent to residential areas, is that a negative on quality of life for residents? This council that adopted that sign bylaw thought so, and you have to draw the line somewhere. Obviously, that was at businesses advertising their own services or residences, on-site services. You have to draw the line somewhere. I think to grant this variance would be opening up the floodgates and essentially voiding the bylaw. This would be such a, I think, a drastic change. And so I would suggest, I'm certainly open to a conversation about that bylaw. Maybe it needs to be looked at again. Certainly open to that conversation. But I think to approve this, and we're kind of dancing around some of the semantics and stuff, but functionally, this is a community that chose to have a restrictive sign by law, and this is a very wide usage of it. Not saying that there isn't a need in the community for physical advertising, but I think that your issue is less with the building department's recommendation and just the way that the bylaw is constructed, and that is not really something that we are going to sort out here tonight, at least in my opinion. So I think that might be something to speak about, at council with public input or something. That might be a different way to go about it. But anyway, those are just my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else in the committee have comments or questions? Councillor Quinte?
Just Google mapping your property, like the neighbor to the west of you, like they're not even gonna, the neighboring property to the west of you, they're not even gonna see this sign unless they get out onto the highway with their vehicles. And the neighboring properties to the east of this, the homes are way down by the water, so they're never gonna see this sign until they get up to the roadway to take their vehicles into the traffic. And with the other signage in the neighborhood across the street, like the Colangelo sign is, I don't know specifically how tall that sign is, but it's a pretty tall sign. I can certainly see your point. So putting up a sign close to the highway, I can see why you want to do that, because you're maximizing the visual. But if you were to just attach some of the advertising signs, just physically attach them to the building, you're not going to get the same exposure. Maybe you already thought of that as well, and that's how you came up with this sign idea. I'm just asking.
Through you, Chair, that's correct. It would be more visibility, and it would look a little bit more professional to be in a proper enclosure. You're creating jobs, we're pouring foundations, we're moving concrete, we're welding steel, possibly a little garden around the base to make it look proper.
Right.
There are still 14 families that do reside at this property.
Correct.
And saying that, I do want to protect that.
Well, yeah, I think that's all I got to say. I guess we're going to go to a vote on this, but I sympathize with the applicant.
Ms. Simmons?
John, the issue is really the bylaw, not the concept. And I think that has to be addressed if there are any changes.
Well, that's why we have the bylaw, so that when certain scenarios like this one come before us, we get a chance to say, okay, well, the bylaw is the bylaw, that's true, but in this case, it actually works for me for this sort of situation, which
but
makes
it's
the people
precedence.
The people still have to come forward. So if you get another scenario down the road, next week, next month, next year, they're going to have to come to us and explain their position, and we get a more chance to thoroughly investigate where, who, what, and how. That's all.
Any further comments, sir? Other than that, I'm going to ask the committee to put a motion on the floor, either to accept or modify or deny, because we're just seem to be spinning our wheels here right now, and see where we go from there, I guess. And if the decision is not, certainly in your favor, I don't know whether there's something down the road that we can accommodate, other than maybe modify, as Councillor Carr said, go back and take a look at the bylaw. But I know we'll have to, with the help of planning and the building department, look at the whole thing, because once we get into it, everybody seems to come forward with a different, I guess, set of concerns and ideas of how they like signs. And I know when the bylaw was being set up, it was, as I know, planning department, it wasn't easy, and it caused a lot of, I guess, confusion. And I think even sometimes now with the portable ones, well, we've got that's quieted down a bit. It has its moments too. And but anyway, signage, and as you can tell with our previous application, with the electronic signs that are new that we're dealing with more now, it's becoming more of an effort that we have to look into each case and scenario to try and come up with hopefully a positive solution. But sometimes they don't always conform either. We have to take a look at that too. So, Councillor Quinte.
I'd like to make a motion that we defer our decision on this because the messaging on the agenda isn't even correct, because it's talking about an electronic message sign when this is not an electronic message sign. And then that'll give me some opportunity to do a little bit of neighborhood door knocking, so to speak, with some of the people that I know, and see if I can get any feedback. That's my motion.
Okay, so you're asking for a deferral? Okay, do I have a seconder? No seconder. That motion is lost. Okay, committee, Councillor Cart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move motion to deny the variance application, but I say with that I am open to having a discussion about the sign bylaw. I think that it needs to happen in a formal manner with all of planning and certainly all of council, but a community discussion. I think to approve this would be to open the floodgates, and very quickly we would find, I believe, many applications seeking a similar variance would come forward, and we would very quickly, I think, be backtracking on the precedent because this wasn't thought through in a more macro manner. So I think that's the way to do it. I don't disagree that physical advertising, that there is a need for it in the community, and certainly our small businesses can use every opportunity for generate more traffic. I agree with those principles, certainly, but I just don't think that this is the way to address it. I just think that this is just so non-conforming that I think it would be a dangerous precedent, but open to sign bylaw discussion.
Mr. Edison, please. Okay.
Through you, Chair, just before we vote.
Sure.
Two things. One, is this eligible for OLT since it's slightly different than a conventional minor variance?
I would let planning, would you like to rule on that?
No, Mr. Chair, no, it's not an application under the Planning Act, so no.
I didn't think so, but I thought I'd better ask.
Okay, and second question, would I be able to request a deferral to work with staff and find some type of a resolve before having another meeting with proper minutes?
Well, we have a motion on the floor. I will tell you that this decision tonight is not totally final. These minutes go to council, and I would presume you would have an opportunity to present your case here or question the minutes when the minutes are come up for approval at council, the same as the rest of the applications here tonight. Is that not right? Or is this a little different in the decision items? I'm not just sure.
This is a variance on bylaw, so no, I don't think council final decision on this. I think this sits with the committee. Yep.
Okay. Well, I just wondered because all the minutes will be presented as
through the
as
minutes.
we're have dealt with. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Through the minutes, but normally that's triggered through a formal bylaw, which this wouldn't be.
Okay. No.
Okay. So just
go ahead.
Through you, Chair. So we have an electronic sign which is incorrect. We have a setback that's incorrect. We have a location on the property that's incorrect. All of the minutes are incorrect. So if we present this at council, what would they be approving or disapproving if we have incorrect information? Should we not defer?
Director Jardine, please.
Through Mr. Chair, so the The information provided on the sketch, this up there was provided by the applicant, not by staff. I want to make that clear.
Through you, Chair, my numbers were correct. The information on the schedule that we received tonight and I received today from the building department was incorrect.
This was the submitted.
That is correct.
Okay.
Through you, Chair.
And that's the numbers that we've been talking to, I think.
The verbiage in the, through you, Chair, the verbiage in the minutes is incorrect, which is what we're speaking to tonight. We have inconsistency between the site plan, which I did provide, and the minutes, which is interpreted from the site plan, which is incorrect.
Again, I don't think that the rationale for the recommendation does not hinge on a difference of a meter, 2 meters. It's the location of the sign on a lot that is a residential lot and adjacent to residential lots. Now, since I've got the microphone, I'll make a wider comment as well, is that yes, the sign bylaw is very complicated. It's a bit of a monster, always has been. Because it is a very kind of controversial issue. It's a very polarizing issue, signage. Because you have an application that doesn't meet the bylaw, doesn't necessarily mean that the bylaw is wrong. It sometimes means the bylaw is working based on the intent of the bylaw. The intent of the bylaw was to reduce the sheer amount of general advertising signs and try and restrict them. And you have to find some way of doing that, right? And so restricting them from residential lots was one approach. Restricting them to lots that the service that's being advertised is located on the lot is another one. But these are all tools that you use for the general intent. And the general intent was to restrict this form of signage proliferating all over the municipality, even on arterial roads. And one of the comments I'm surprised hasn't been brought up tonight was the impact of proliferation of signage in relation to traffic safety. It's always something that usually comes up. Hasn't tonight. That's fine. But this is an example where the bylaw is working. Now, if council want to change that approach and very much open that up, certainly staff would amend the bylaw in relation to that direction. But I just want to make clear that because there's one application that you can't support doesn't mean the bylaw is not working. It probably means the bylaw is working.
Okay, thank you. Further comments
Sure.
before I go question the vote here? So.
Through you, Chair. So we heard earlier tonight a different case, a different file relating to an electronic sign. I don't come highly decorated as part of an organization. I come as an individual.
No, that's not a fair comment, sir.
No, that's
Please.
not an insult. That's highly respected. I'm saying I highly respect their organization, and I don't come as part of them. I come as my own file, and I stand on my own 2 feet. Right? What I'm saying is we were able to make amends for their electronic sign, which I appreciate, and I think it's of net benefit to the community. What I'm trying to approach here is something of net benefit to the community as well. Is there a business case for it? Absolutely. Right? However, I also do believe, and I do appreciate that you guys are hearing my file here tonight with respect to this.
Okay, well, we appreciate your comments. I do have a motion on the floor to deny the application, and I'll have to call a vote. It's been regularly moved and seconded by Councillor Card and Mr. Edison, Mr. Edison, on that signage. So are there any further comments from the committee before I call the vote? Okay. All those in favor of denial of the application? Opposed? Carried.
I'm opposed.
Okay. All I can say is if you want to apply to council or staff to have at some time down the road to have the bylaw revisited, I would say that would be your best next route, because as Director Jardine has said, I know in the past when I was here when they were drafting that, it was pretty onerous and trying to resolve everything to make everybody happy. And we've had to make amendments. There's been other denials, and we've accepted them, but we've had to do some amending to it so they conform. But we try to work with people, but sometimes, as you can see, there isn't a total consensus. But we appreciate your attendance, sir.
Thank you for the committee.
Thank you. Okay, committee, we now move to item 12, the printed information. You have 12.1, the monthly planning reports, zoning bylaw and official plan amendment tracking, and the building department report, and also 12.2, committee minutes, site plan control minutes, and I would ask the motion to include all those under one motion. Any questions, Mr. Edison? Councillor Quinte? Any questions regarding those minutes or reports? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, we'll start. Any requests for information from the committee? Mr. Edison, no? No, sir. Okay. Councillor Card? Councillor McHugh? Simmons?
I just have a procedure question. If there is unlimited questions from, like, is there a limit on presentations or not?
Well, we can limit them if they get repetitious, but we try to be respectful and give every the opportunity. I think whether it's this committee or not, I think we try to go above and beyond, be respectful.
Oh, you were very good.
To listen to all their concerns, plus, either in favor or not in favor, or whatever you want to call it. But I know in the past, sometimes it gets a little repetitious. We'll have it controlled a little bit more. Yeah. Mr. Forsyth?
Good, thank you.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Jarleen, under zoning bylaw amendments, I'm just wondering, the first one there, application was December 19th, 24, and it says they're still waiting complete submission. It just seems kind of strange that it's been almost 7 months before they've even given anything back.
Through Mr. Chair, yeah, that one's a subdivision application, so we're with those types of applications, there's obviously a significant number of submissions that come in. We haven't deemed it complete just because we haven't received all of the submissions, so it does look like a long period of time, but for that type of application, it's probably not unusual.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Quinte?
Thanks. I just want to comment that I am not interested in opening up a discussion on the City of Quinte West's sign bylaw. Our staff is busy enough, and if we were to ask them to do such a thing, it might be 2 years before we get back to having something that they could bring to us. So I'm not interested in that. Thanks.
Okay, I appreciate that, and we'll have to see if we do get any representation that requests it, I guess is the next thing, but we'll have to wait down the road. But anyway, without further ado, I think I've had my say up to this point, and I thank everyone for their attendance. I hope it wasn't too boring for you, but anyway, it's always entertaining, I guess, to some respect. But anyway, do we have any notice of motion tonight? Seeing none, okay. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, July the 17th, same time, same place, and other than that, I would entertain a motion for the hard part here, adjournment. Mr. Edison, Mr. Forsyth, all in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thanks for your attendance.